Hey, if you own a construction business, are you tired of seeing your projects go over budget and miss their deadlines? Are you dealing with profit bleeds, unhappy customers, and are you spending too much of your time putting out fires? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the secret phase of a construction project that a lot of construction companies are ignoring, and it could be the root cause of a lot of those problems. When you get this phase right, when you put the right amount of focus on this secret phase, your projects run smoother, more profitably, they're more likely to finish on time, you will have more referrals from happy clients, you'll get more repeat business, and your phone will ring and ding a lot less. Be sure to stick around until the end because I'm going to share a tip that will help you automate this phase. So here's the deal. Many construction business owners struggle with profit bleeds like rework, giveaways. They're also dealing with schedule delays and inefficiencies like lost productivity, and they're losing thousands or tens of thousands of dollars every month in the form of profit bleeds. It's like they can grow their business to a certain point, and then they hit this ceiling of complexity. They hit this wall. And here's the deal. As a business grows, the chaos seems to grow exponentially. Maybe they try hiring people, but it just ends up creating more work and more stress and more headaches for them. They sign up for software, and then they find out that the software is just an empty shell that has to be built out before they can even use it to get any value out of it. The chaos and the stress gets to a point where the owner thinks they have to scale back. I hear things like, it's just not sustainable. I can't sustain this pace. So they either have to scale back, or in some cases, they decide to shut it down. What if I told you there's a surprisingly simple way to streamline your construction business operations and save money that most people are just simply overlooking? What if I told you there's a secret phase of every construction project that you need to identify first, and then you focus your time and energy on that phase? I faced those kind of challenges that I just shared on projects that I've run. Constant firefighting, missed deadlines, profit bleeds happened all the time. About 10 or 12 years ago, I was brought in to run a company, and it was chaos. And I ended up growing that company from about 15 employees up to 50 employees and grew it up to $11 million in revenue. And I've personally managed over $300 million worth of construction projects in my career. And there's a myth that a lot of people believe, and they don't even question it, and it sounds like this: construction is just going to be chaotic, or construction has to be chaotic. Construction is going to be chaotic, right? Wrong. Construction does not have to be chaotic. Unfortunately, it is usually chaotic, but that's only because there's this secret phase of each project that gets ignored. And when you focus time and energy on this phase, it stops being chaotic. The chaos goes away. So you're going to learn about this phase in just a couple of minutes, but I'm also going to share some insider tips that our clients are using to scale their business and boost their profits while reducing their stress and while working less. Don't forget, stick around until the end of the video. I'll show you a bonus tip that complements this strategy perfectly, and you can use to automate this process using something that you may already be paying for. Okay, let's jump into it. Here's the 5-step process to identify and capitalize on this secret phase of every construction project. Okay, here we go. Let's start with some questions. Do any of these sound familiar? Details are falling through the cracks. Do you feel like you're spending too much time putting out fires? Seems like every problem comes to you. Is too much of the business in your head? Number 7, what about this one? Our customers may be losing confidence in us. Number 8, the business consumes more of my life than it should. And number 10, I feel like a visionary stuck in day-to-day operations. If any of those questions resonate with you, there's a pretty good chance that you could be stuck in a trap, caught in a trap, the JETS trap. And step number 1 is to get out of the JETS trap. What is this trap? JETS stands for the just enough to start trap, doing just enough to get the project started, just enough to get an estimate out the door, just enough to get a contract signed, just enough to get a crew started. 90% of contractors are stuck in this trap. They don't know it. and they can't get out. So here's what it looks like. It's generally some combination of these things: doing free estimates, plugging in allowances when putting contracts together, sticking plug numbers in and hoping for the best, starting projects with missing selections, fast tracking projects. That's a real trap. There's a lot of just-in-time ordering of materials, just-in-time selection of subcontractors. You end up finding out there are scope gaps. There's a lot of this. Let's get started. Let's do just enough to start, and we'll figure it out later. And this, my friends, is the just enough to start trap. So here's the old way, okay? If you look at the old way, this is what the just enough to start trap looks like. If you were putting together a really basic Gantt chart schedule, you do just enough pre-construction to get started, and then you start construction, and you kick off construction. And then where there's overlap between what should be pre-construction and construction, you have chaos. While construction's going on, you're figuring out permits, you're making material selections, doing design work, going back and forth with architects and engineers, managing this tornado of changes, going through the purchasing process, negotiating with subs and suppliers on materials, doing things that should have been pre-construction activities, hopefully managing risk, trying to manage the budget while a project is going on. This is the just enough to start trap. And the first step to identifying and capitalizing on the secret phase of every project is to get out of the just enough to start trap. So that brings us to step number 2. You have to focus your efforts on the secret phase. What is that secret phase? I just actually showed it to you on that previous graphic. But let me have one of our podcast guests explain it to you. This is Wes Palmisano. He grew his business to $250 million a year, and he attributes a lot of their success to their intense focus on this secret phase. Here's what he said on episode 309 of the Construction Leading Edge podcast.
I started spending 90% of my time on pre-construction. As a leader and as a project executive, I watched other project executives who did the opposite. They'd spend 10% on pre-construction and 90% on jobs. And it was pretty obvious to me that they were then in kind of a reactive mode throughout the project. And so I recognized and realized that if I put the time, energy, and effort as a leader into pre-construction, I'm able to then set the job up for success and enable success for a team where their task is then to execute the plan.
Wes grew his company by focusing on pre-construction. The secret phase of every project that you need to focus on is the pre-construction phase. Here's what I found. If you think about a great construction company in your market, they're growing, getting the ideal kind of projects, attracting the right kind of clients, attracting the right kind of employees, driving cool trucks, whatever success looks like to you, there's a pretty good chance they're a great pre-construction company. You just can't see the pre-construction. What you see is the construction phase. But the reason they're so successful in the construction phase is because they've invested in the pre-construction phase. So if you want to scale, you have to be a great pre-construction company. It doesn't matter if you're a custom home builder, a remodeler, if you're doing kitchens and baths, if you're an electrician, an excavation contractor, a roofer, it doesn't matter. If you want to scale your company, you need to be a great pre-construction company. So step number 2 is to focus on the pre-construction phase. Here is how you do that. Here's the new way of running your projects. You have a well-defined pre-construction phase that one person is accountable for, and this pre-construction phase ends before construction begins. So what do you do in between pre-construction and construction? Well, that brings us to step number 3, and that is to nail the handoff. Every project is like an Olympic relay race. And if you've watched an Olympic relay race, you know there's a good handoff of the baton from one runner to the next. You never see two runners running along with joint custody of the baton, passing it back and forth, fumbling it, which is what a construction project would look like if it were a construction relay. You would see these people with two people handling it handing the baton back and forth. You might see two people running and there's no baton. You have to have a clear handoff of the baton to give the field team everything they need to finish instead of just enough to start. Here's what this looks like. You have a pre-construction phase, and then you nail the handoff. You hand off the information that the field team needs, the construction team needs, the accountability and the communication. Give them everything they need to finish instead of just enough to start. So step number 3 is to nail the handoff. And then step number 4 is to create your "this is how we do it" document. You might be thinking, wasn't that the name of a 90s hip hop song? I mean, you're exactly right. This is how we do it. So when this is done right, you have a document that shows every step of your pre-construction process. It's documented so that it's out of your head and it's out of everybody's head and in a more accessible format, you might say. And when you have this in place, when you have a "this is how we do it" document, your team knows the process. You can actually train them on the process. You can hold people accountable to a process. You can't hold somebody accountable to what's in your head, right? This will be a reference guide for your team. And when you document your process, you can answer questions one last time. Here's a little tip. Grab a Post-it note, write this question on it. How can this be the last time I answer this question? How can this be the last time I answer this question? You put that up on your computer screen. If you have a process document, every time somebody asks you a question, you put the answer into that process document, and that's the last time you ever answer it. And then when you have a documented process document, you have a good training manual for new hires. Here's what our client, Alex Knapp, the owner of Minneapolis Decks, said about nailing the handoff and his "this is how we do it" document.
So what would you say was the most impactful part of this program for you and your team?
So the nail the handoff was awesome. I don't think I would have got to where I am without that. But where it really came together was the "this is how we do it" process document. We've been using that process for 10 years, but we'd never written it down in a thing. So like we'd forget a step here or there, and just writing that down. I can't believe how much that helped.
Yeah. Yeah. And you tell me, you guys have started to use that specific process.
Yep. Correct. Yeah. So, we actually met on it this morning. So we had met on it a couple of weeks. I think we got it to where we want it, and we met this morning, and we still found a few holes. So we added a couple things, and I've got one of the people there going through and color coordinating it. So, everyone's got their own color. So it's easy to refer back to.
That's awesome. It's just a continual refinement, right?
Making I think so. I don't know if we'll ever be done with that. So especially like as we grow, we'll add new people and find new roles for them in there.
Yeah.
All right. So step number 1, you have to get out of the "just enough to start" trap. Step number 2 is to focus on the secret pre-construction phase. Step number 3 is to nail the handoff and give your field teams everything they need to finish instead of just enough to start. Step number 4 is to create your "this is how we do it" process document, or for my Canadian friends, the process document. And then step number 5, here's the secret sauce. Okay. Step number 5 is, well, let's talk about a common mistake, a mistake I made for the first probably 15 years of my career. Let me know if you've done this. You find a problem that needs to be solved. You decide, I'm going to put together a system or a process. And you go into your office, you go into your fortress of solitude, or you go up to the top of the mountain and you furiously type out this process document. You come out of your fortress of solitude, pass it off to your team, attempt to cram it down their throats, and then you're disappointed at why they won't follow this perfect process that you came up with, right? Have you ever tried that? Me too. So here's the secret sauce. If you want your team to actually implement a process and follow it, you need to include them in the development of that process. Okay. So step number 5, the secret sauce is to include your team in the development of the process. So a couple of things to remember. Your team will run through walls to implement a process that they were part of developing. They'll find every reason that your process won't work. Okay. Your team will run through walls to implement a process that they were part of developing. And Here's another little soundbite. The half-assed process that your team will actually follow and implement is better than your perfect process that they resist every step of the way. So the secret sauce is to include your team in the development of that process. They'll take ownership of it, they'll be empowered, and they will actually implement that process. So here's what you can expect. When you do this, what we've seen with the hundreds of clients that we've worked with who are nailing the handoff, you'll eliminate profit bleeds like rework, giveaways, lost productivity. You'll reduce your cycle times, meaning your projects will finish faster. Your business will grow automatically. Why is that? Let me explain. How does your business grow automatically? You'll be doing more revenue each month with the same team because you've eliminated those lost days. There's a pretty good chance you're losing 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days of production every day because of avoidable delays. And when you collapse those gaps in your schedule, your productivity goes up, therefore your revenue goes up. So your top line will be growing automatically. Your bottom line will grow because you've eliminated profit bleeds like rework, giveaways, lost productivity, and schedule delays. And then you'll have more time. Your phone will ring and ding less. You'll be pulled into fewer fires, meaning you'll have more time to work on your business, to go find your ideal clients, to go sell more work, to train your team to be more efficient, to actually help your team create more processes. In other words, you'll have more time to work on your business. So think about this. Think about the ripple effects. When your team has everything they need to finish a job before they start, when things are running efficiently, think about this. What will the effect be on your team? There's a pretty good chance your team will be less stressed. They'll be happier. That means they're more productive. And when they're less stressed, they're happier, they're more productive, there's a pretty good chance they're going to stick around longer. Means less turnover, higher employee retention. Think about your customers. When projects are going smoothly and your customers get to just enjoy the build process and they're not getting peppered with questions and being hammered with urgent requests, they're going to enjoy the process more. They're going to be happier because the projects are completed faster. They're going to be more likely to give you good referrals, maybe even repeat business. All right, so let's wrap this up and get to the bonus tip. Step number 1 is you've got to understand there's a secret phase of every project, and that is the key to making your projects more profitable, finishing them faster, and making your life easier. So step 1 is you have to get out of the just enough to start trap. Step number 2 is focus on the secret phase, the pre-construction phase. Spend a lot of time and energy there. Step number 3 is nail the handoff. Make sure your team in the field has everything they need to finish instead of just enough to start. Step number 4 is create your "this is how we do it" process document. And step number 5, the secret sauce to get your team to implement that process is to include them in the development of that process. So, as promised, here's an extra tip. Leverage your project management software like Buildertrend, CoConstruct, JobTread, Procore to automate and track your pre-construction activities. Okay, this makes sure that things don't fall through the cracks. So instead of having it in a process document that your team has to go refer to, create a pre-construction schedule template in your project management software that has all of the steps in order. That way you can use your software to do the automatic remembering of the steps of the process and the automatic reminding of the people on your team. So there's the bonus tip. If you're using project management software, create a pre-construction schedule template with all of those steps in there. So if you're ready to start having more profitable projects that are more efficient and happy customers, happier team, implement those steps today. If you got some value out of this video, then please like and subscribe. to my channel, and you may want to check out the Construction Leading Edge podcasts. There are 350 plus episodes out there. It's been around for over 10 years, 2 million downloads. You'll find interviews with construction business owners and industry experts, all about helping you have more freedom, more impact, and more wealth to systematize your construction business. And if you would like my team's help systematizing your business, the first step would be to go apply for a free business evaluation call. And you can do that at constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or there'll be a link in the description below this video. My name is Todd Dawalt from Construction Leading Edge. We'll see you next time.